Hello, Peter.
Hello?
We are here to talk about your Svalbard trip.
Yes. Oh,
It was a
that was
while
an,
ago, right? So, for people who know nothing about Svalbard, what surprised you first? What was the most surprising moment for you when you first got to Svalbard?
well, for most people who don't know what Svalbard is, I think it's probably good to explain what it is and what makes it special. So, Svalbard is the archipelago of the north coast of Norway, which is very north, very far beyond the polar circle. It's about 78 degrees north, and that makes it probably the northmost place where you can arrive reasonably easy, right? By just commercial airplane from Norway, right? And being so north, that's very interesting, and that is very special, a special place. But this is not the only thing. It is also special, I think, from its history, where it's it really had a very unusual status until the early of 20th century, right? It's kind of didn't directly belong to anyone. And even afterwards, it's driven by what's called Svalbard Treaty, which makes it kind of very unique and almost utopian place where anybody from any place in the world can come and work there. No work permits required or anything like that.
That's right. Interesting. When you first arrived, how was your experience? What was standing out the most? I mean, airport, any peculiarities with the shops?
Yeah, well, I would say there are a couple of things here. The first one is you can see what you are live in a Schengen zone, which Norway belongs to when you are in Norway. And then you kind of go into that Norway, but special kind of Norway, right? Which is not a part of a Schengen zone. So you come into the airport, right? And hey, you are, there is no passport control, right? And it's kind of like interesting when you left the Schengen zone and then you are not entered any kind of country whatsoever. The other thing I think which is interesting is just approaching that. You can see those, I would say, iconic northern views, right? You have those very, very cold, desolate place where there's, no trees on the island, and they're mostly covered by glaciers which are dropping into the ocean, which is, like this very interesting view. When you come out, what also would surprise you is the signs. Like a Svalbard has this very special kind of a road signs which you actually sell to all the tourists, which they say, beware, there are polar bears here. Right. And I think that is another interesting and special place about this place, that there are so many polar bears and they so much not afraid of humans, what they actually can be dangerous. And that means outside of a settlement, you need to have a gun with you. So you can, scare the bear, right? Or protect yourself if it comes to you. That is required, right? So, I mean, they talk in many countries, like in the United States, should you be allowed to wear a weapon in this case, and this is a unique place on the planet, I think, where you are required to have a gun with you, right, if you want to go and explore outside of the city boundaries.
That is very interesting. So, were you guys carrying guns with you, or was just one person?
Well, no. Like for this applies to the locals. Right, the locals, they have to have a gun with you. For tourists, that's very probably dangerous, right? Hey, anybody come to this place, and if you just also require everybody to carry a gun, that really wouldn't work very well. So instead, you actually have to have a guide with you, right? If you can't just go and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and explore those wilderness by yourself. You have to have a local guide, and that local guide will have a gun with you. And it is not the only special requirement. The other special requirement is what you have to have somebody doing a watch at all times, right? Really watching for polar bears, right? So they don't really come to the camp unannounced, right? And I think that was really also a very interesting and special part of a trip there in our group, which was four four kind of clients and a guide, right? Each of us got this 2-hour block in the middle of the night when you're doing the watch, right? And this kind of alone in the Arctic wilderness, by yourself during the night, kind of doing that watch, that was a very kind of, it's a special experience, right? When you kind of, I don't know, like almost kind of forced to spend that time alone with yourself. And, obviously there's like no cell phone connection or everything, right? Which is kind of so different compared to the pace of life most of us have.
Is there anything that you learn from this experience about teams and how to work in teams, and any new takeaways?
I mean, I wouldn't, highlight any kind of specific thing, right? Of course, you can go into generalities. Hey, you know what? You need to have a team because by, one person, it would be, quite a miserable experience to try not to speak, so many nights. You are also kind of relying on other people because you know what? If somebody would actually fall asleep within a time, there is kind of danger what they will meet them. You will meet a polar bear waking you up, right? Instead of somebody who you're supposed to change with.
Yeah, I heard you planned a boat rope near a glacier, and that changed. So what happened there?
Oh yeah. So that's right. So it was interesting, right? First, if you look at Svalbard, most people coming there as a tourists, they don't really venture very far, right? Typically, they would have some day hikes from a town called Longyearbyen, right? Maybe they would take the boat trips, right, to explore the nature, or maybe some other activities nearby. During winter, there is a lot of also people doing the snow mobile trips. But very, very few people take these multi-day expeditions, kind of self-supported with backpacks and tents, as we did, right? And our initial plan was actually to take a boat and be dropped off somewhere in kind of remote place, and then kind of explore the glacier out there. That fell through because they had some mix-up. I think they mixed the diesel in their gasoline supply, and so most of the small boats which run on gasoline couldn't run until they could have those tanks cleaned and resupplied. And this also kind of gives us a very interesting perspective about this kind of like a very sort of like a remote settlement, right? Which really needs to be like a very self-reliant, right? And you can see, well, there is, and essentially there one power plant and one storage of the fuel and so on. So, and if something goes wrong, well, that can be, problematic, right? There is no kind of the town with gas station next door where you can run and get the gas, right? And I think that is also quite special and quite interesting. But I think that accident was actually very happy accident for us, right? Because I really liked what we could experience, which was not only this kind of fantastic Arctic nature, but we also could visit a number of abandoned towns and some also cabins and such, which is the stuff I really like. And what is also interesting in this case, because this is Arctic, you can see this the thing which was abandoned maybe like 100 years ago, right? And it's still kind of frozen in time, right? It doesn't degrade as fast as it would be in a warmer place, right? So that also made it quite special.
Okay. Any challenging moments during the trip? Yeah, I heard there were some problems on day one with glaciers.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say that is the problems, right? But I think this is kind of what you have in those cases. Some people call it problems, some kind of challenges. I call it type 2 fun, right? Because it's a very nice thing to take stories about it. Well, we were out there when it was pretty warm. And so as we were going up the glacier, we had to cross streams in a few times. And because of the warmth, the streams were much larger than we expected. So we had to sort of cross those streams, right? And then you are knee deep in this fast running, very, very cold water. That's kind of wakes you up nicely, but it also can be some challenges, right? If you fall and you kind of get pulled to get your backpack under this glacier, that can be unpleasant, if not dangerous.
So, any gear that you are particularly happy that you took with yourself?
Well, first I can say what I did not take, right? Because I brought what I do usually in those cases, right? When you can literally look at the two parts of the trips, right? One is you come to the town and then your stuff is carried by cars and aeroplanes, right? That's where I take a lot of stuff, right, to have spares, maybe, to help the friends I'm going with if they forgot something. And then the second stage is when you have to carry that stuff on your own back, right? And that's when you have to become very selective, because as they say, ounces makes pounds and pounds are heavy, right? Which basically means every little bit kind of gradually adds up, right? And then while it doesn't look like much, it will feel much after you've been carried it uphill, right, for several months, right? Oh, several hours. And one thing I was asking, well, do we need like a micro spikes, right? Which is kind of like some lighter versions of crampons. We're going on glacier. And the guy told us, no, it should be fine. It's kind of, has like a crispy cover on it, not a problem at all, right? And it actually was rather slippery. So I felt like, probably I should have, taken those micro spikes, whatever, like, 200 grams of weight to make that walking up a glacier more comfortable. But at the same time, that is also, I think, a nice training and experience, right? Because there is this kind of like a special skills to balance yourself, right? What you learn by walking on a slippery glacier without really, without micro spikes or crampons or anything. So yeah, that was the thing. I was also obviously very happy I took my drone with it, some awesome shots which I could take, right, even if that's added some weight.
So you visited some abandoned sites you mentioned, right? So what was your experience with those?
Yes, yeah. Well, anyway, for some reason, I really kind of do like those abandoned stuff, right? And we kind of had this two groups in our group, right? Let's say, abandoned stuff, yeah, let's spend some time out here. And it's like, do we need to go to this abandoned town, which is kind of a detour, right? Maybe you just hang out, enjoy nature, watch reindeer and stuff. So, but I really love abandoned stuff. And we had several locations which we could visit. So, which are their Russian abandoned towns, right? And I think it is meaningful because really, even though this is Norway, everybody within kind of given scope can operate out there. And even despite the very bad relationships now between Russia and European Union and lots of sanctions being in place, there are actually still Russian towns which are operating, or sort of, let's say, kind of operating on the islands. And also what is interesting is there are also were some abandoned Norwegian settlements, but Norwegians like to clean their stuff up, right? So you can say, hey, we abandoned the settlement, so why don't we sort of clean it up so we can have it looking as undisturbed nature? And Russians don't quite do it, right? They just, leave it as it is, right? So we had two of those fantastic places. One was called the Coles Bay, right? And this is interesting because it still has some building which is kind of being used. There is, let's say, some, I think some serves as a museum, right? And even like abandoned buildings, they are in a pretty decent condition, right? You can find some artifacts, like I found ripped newspapers stayed in the year, was what, like 1986 or something, right? So you can see people were like relatively not long ago, right? Maybe like people in Massa, right? That's 40 years ago. So that was very, very interested to explore, right, and get those kind of insights about, hey, what was the life of those people, right? You can find, oh, look at that, this is the beds, or this looks like where they at, and this is some utensils they use, right? And I don't know, like for me, that is such an interesting experience.
So I understand it was a physical challenge in a lot of ways, and was there any excitement that came from another source? I don't know, someone broke an ankle, any accidents, any particular things that happen?
Oh, broken ankle or something. Well, yeah, I think in this case, I think what also it tells you, right, how much there can be like a different level of comfort in this case between people, right? I myself do some trail running, right? And then sometimes when I go with some like professional trail runners, right, you can see, oh my gosh, they are running, let's say, downhill. It's like absolutely crazy, right? How can they do it without falling, right? And then I see myself as complete idiot, right? Like moving kind of so slowly, right? But at the same time, when you can see, well, like people who spend most of their time in the cities, right, and such, they are even less comfortable maybe to navigate into terrain which you can, consider very easy. For us, I think if you look at some challenges, besides the glacier on the first day, we were crossing the glacier in one of the places, which was like it had like a really thin bridge, right, if you will. So it was like the thin ice above the running stream, right, which was kind of a little bit scary, especially because this is not where a lot of people goes, right? So you can say, well, somebody went there a few days ago, a few weeks ago, and but you don't know the state of it right now. And we did not quite have all that typical glacier mountain gear, right? Like like everybody has. There is a rope, right, and everybody has a harness, right, to rescue, right, and everything. But we made it. And then also on one of the days, we went to on this descent to the second Russian town, right? And this is where we had this situation. We have a little bit of kind of snow. Right, and then it's kind of didn't look like a very big incline, and then it kind of ends up with rocks, and some of the people, like including myself, went to slide on it, and you can like wow, and that didn't end up very well, right? Because it turns out it's very hard really to anticipate how quickly you're going to gain speed. Based on the quality of the snow, right? Really how wet it is, and so on and so forth, right? And I accelerated a lot, faster than I expected, right? And then got a couple of scratches, kind of stopping myself on the rock below that, right? But happily, no broken ankles or anything like that, which would require anything serious.
That's good.
Now, yeah. Now, for people who may be worried about like, whoa, that sounds scary, like you could break an ankle and that's kind of a wilderness. The good thing there is that there are helicopters based, right? Hey, that is a part of Norway, right? So if you do get into trouble, actually rescue is available. And while for us it was like very remote, I don't know, let's say a 4-day trip. Really, we were like only maybe 10, 15 kilometers the most from the biggest settlement on the island. Other flies, right? And that is also this, I think, a very interesting idea, right? Because in most of the places, right, you can think like remoteness, comes gradually, right? You have the town, right, and then there's like bunch of suburbs, farms, right, and then after whatever many kilometers, right, you're completely away. And here we pretty much stepped out of the gates, right, of the towns, and we did not meet a single person, right, until we are back 4 days later, basically back right into town, right? So I think that is also like a very unusual experience, if you like.
So you mentioned helicopters and that they are close by. So how is the communication around there? How do they know that you are in trouble and how they get there? I guess the reception is not amazing over there.
Well, I mean, again, because it's so close, it's enough for cell phone signal to get there if there's a direct visibility sign, right? For about maybe third of our way, we had reception, but when you are behind the mountains, no reception. But of course, that is why you would want to carry and have your guide to carry some sort of like a satellite communication device, right? In our case, we were very, very well set. Our guide would have communicator. I had my Garmin InReach Mini, which is absolutely awesome for this kind of satellite communication in case of emergency. Well, and just to say hi to my lovely wife if I feel like it. But we also were very sad because one of our guys brought the Starlink antenna with him, right? We didn't really feel like using that a lot, right? But it was interesting to test, and it operated quite beautifully, right? Even very far beyond the polar circle, and obviously that also could be used for communication if you want to.
So you spent some time in the city also, right? How was that?
Yeah, well, the city, it's an awesome small city. It's interesting historically, right? If you look at originally, that was a mining town, right? If you look at that Longyearbyen, that I think translates as Longyear town. With Longyear, is not because the year is particularly long out there, but because there was a Longyear mining company, and that was also their company town. Now, the mining, the Norwegian mine, the last one, I think, closed just a few weeks before we were visiting this town. But even with that, you can see a lot of those old mining aerial tramways kind of, going to that town, which we keep as historic sites. And now this have been transformed to this like a tourist and research town, right? There's a lot of tourist activity out there, and also there is some local university, right, which has a lot of people from around the world coming who wants to study Arctic, because that is a like an awesome place to do it, right? One, you have all the kind of comforts of civilization, and then you can be actually in the Arctics, right? And in complete wilderness, right? The short boat ride right away. The town, I think, is about 3,000 people, and it has 1,200 hotel beds, kind of for tourists. So you can see it's not very large, right? It's not your, Las Vegas or kind of Paris in terms of how much tourists it can accommodate. But it has like a grocery store, bunch of restaurants. So obviously like a tourist shop. I don't think there is like a lot of stuff to do in town on its own, right? I think you spend a few hours to walk around. They have this kind of a nice sort of like a historic signs. Right, to learn about it, some nice souvenirs to buy, but that's about it. One other special thing I would say, and this is kind of can be exciting for some foodies, but absolutely despising for some others, is they have some like very original food you can get out there, right? You can, they obviously eat reindeer, which is kind of everywhere, right? Like, I mean, the reindeer population is kind of pretty large, so there is some hunting of reindeer happens, and reindeer steaks, burgers, right? That is a very commonplace. In some other restaurants, you can also try the seal meat, and also even whale meat, right, which are also being still hunted in that region.
Going back to reindeers, I guess Santa doesn't visit that town many times.
Yeah, well, that is also like something interesting, which I don't think I touched on, right? What really happens very far north, right, is this endless day, right, and in summer, and endless night during winter, right? And that was kind of one of my ideas, saying, well, you know what, I came here in summer, but it would be also very interesting to come here in winter, like for a few days, and see what does that kind of like a polar night looks like when, the sun never goes up, right? How does that really feels? I mean, I've been to, Sweden, Norway in the winter, right, with a very short day, but not quite beyond the polar circle. All right, so that is very interesting. And during day, I mean, during summer, really you have sun never goes down, right? And this is like what was my first thing, like, okay, how is that polar bear watch actually going to work? Do we have like flashlights? Like how we going, if you think about your normal night, like in most of the places, right? How you going to watch for polar bears? But here, well, it's the sun never sets, right? So you can see pretty well for bears. And yes, you also set a camp in special places. Like we would make sure when you set it, there would be several hundred meters visibility in every direction, so you can see them coming. And we also would set them kind of far from the sea, right? Because polar bears usually hunt on marine life, right? So they don't wander far off from the sea, so it's less probability to see them. But anyway, one of the running jokes we had during this trip was, "Come on, guys, let's move using the daylight," right? Which obviously makes a lot of sense, right? When you're in a classical mountains or something, because you want to make it there before it gets dark. But here you're not actually losing your daylight because there is nothing but daylight.
For the closing, I would like to ask some lightning questions from you, and just answer in short sentences. What was your favorite moment during the visit?
Well, my favorite moment is seeing the city you're coming back to. I think that's always a pleasure moment, right? Because whatever exciting trip is, I think it's the question of right choice of the length, right? Then by the end of it, you can say, "Oh, I'm glad to be back. Oh, people, shower, your normal food, right? That's so exciting."
Most underrated item?
Well, the most underrated item I see those abandoned cities, right? Because I didn't see our guides and say, "Hey guys, there's opportunity to visit them," right? Oh, and specifically there was this awesome old abandoned by still selling like a drilling kit, right? Which we could actually climb on. Yeah, some would call that not a very good judgment, but we enjoyed it a lot.
So the most overrated one?
The most overrated one. Well, for me, that was that trip, the boat trip we took, right? But I don't know, wherever we are just very unlucky, or it just happened this way, right? We didn't see a lot of life, close by, and the glacier we saw kind of getting into the water was not very exciting.
Would you go back?
Yes, yeah, of course. I mean, I would I even have two different itineraries that I thought for myself. One is I would want to come probably in the middle of a polar night to see what that is. That can be a nice experience, right? And then also there is a trip you can probably go by the water, right? From those two cities we visited, right? Kind of there was the railroad connecting them, right? Which is now out of use, right? And that's looks like it's doable. That's kind of slightly more technical, but I would like to do that sometime.
You were traveling with a small adventure startup called GeeksGoPeaks, which is specializing in tech community going on adventures together. So in this case, if someone in tech had only 1 week to explore Svalbard, what would be your advice?
Well, I would say their 1 week in Svalbard is a long time, right? In this case, I would think there are a number of local activities, some which we did, some which we did not end up doing, right? I think it was pretty nice experience to go in the sauna with a polar plunge, I know people are doing kind of also this polar kayaking, which is very awesome stuff like that. The other thing which we did not get to do, which I would like to do, there is one of those mines which are kind of closed. It's converted into museum, right? And you can sort of go deep into the mountain to see, what was it? How did mining happen? I think that's also like a fantastic sort of historical activity. And some kind of expedition as we did it, right? If you are in a good, fitness form, that would be highly recommended. I think for everybody in our group, that was a very, very special trip, which would remember for their lifetime. And you mentioned GeeksGoPeaks, right? I think it's good to mention what that is about. You mentioned it's a startup, but it's also kind of my passion project, if you will, right? Which I call as an opportunity for adventure networking, right? Where we are really getting their geeks, also like a technical startup founders to go together and enjoy nature while also establishing some good good connections. We did a number of trips at this point, right, including besides Svalbard expedition, we went to watch aurora lights earlier in the year. We also went to climb Mount Kazbek. That's 5,000 meters mountain in Georgia. Now, actually, next week we're going to go and visit some erupting volcano in Guatemala. So you can see there's like a variety of events, right? Not all of them are kind of cold. But anyway, if that is something that is interesting for you, you can go to GeeksGoPeaks.com, or you can sign up to our newsletter when we send announcements about the expedition. And we also have a Slack, which you can join, where we have all the community members, discuss those as well as some other opportunities.
Yeah. Links will be in the description, so yeah, just search below in the description. Thank you very much for this, and well, talk to you later.
Okay, that's a pleasure. Thank you.